Hey guys, my name is Ryan and welcome to Overwatch Central. So Symmetra 2.0 is a completely new beast. She is a hero that is very much changed from the old version of her for better or for worse. But there isn't a lot of guides or know-how on how to play the new version of Symmetra. Well, today we're actually going to go over 5 big mistakes that Mr. Mrbobwagner, who is the #1 Symmetra in the world currently, thinks that people should just stop doing. You can find all of his details on his stream in the description below. He's just started, but let's get straight into it. So we always start with introductions for these things, so who are you, why should people listen to you about Symmetra, and what did you used to play before new Symmetra was even a thing?
Hi, I'm Mr. Mrbobwagner. I am the rank 1 Symmetra on Overbuff, which I know is not, it's Overbuff, so, but, I used to play off-tank, off-support, and DPS, and I was GM to top 500 from Season 3 to current season. Right now, I'm ranked top 100 with Symmetra as my main hero with over a 69% win percentage or something crazy like that. And I think she's super valuable in this meta, and she is overlooked.
Before we actually get into the mistakes, that's one thing that I wanted to highlight. In the top tiers, how often do you see other people playing Symmetra other than yourself?
Very, very few. Besides Seagull, who recently shone a light onto Symmetra for a lot of people, it's not as common as I would like it to be. I saw Hardblue play Symmetra yesterday on his stream, but it's very few GPS players are flexing onto Symmetra.
Yeah, and real quick, because we'll talk about this in another video, you feel that Symmetra is going to get to a point where she's going to be really, really strong and used a lot?
I think on certain maps, yes, but I don't think she's going to be a must-pick like Widowmaker or Hanzo in the current meta, but I think she will be utilized in higher tier games on certain maps.
Okay, cool. So we'll start with the first mistake, which you've sort of highlighted as being surrounding the left click and actually getting a bit too close.
Okay, so left click in the current state, this is before the 2-meter range increase, is way too short to get any advantage out of it. You just have to be too close to the enemy team for it to be effective or useful. And if the charge just doesn't do enough damage in its starting stages to be worth it. It does an insane amount of damage at the end, but if the enemy team is like focusing you, you will die in a quarter of a second because you have 200 HP, and the people you're trying to take down, which is a Reinhardt or a Orisa or a Diva, they can kill you before that almost every single time if you do left clicks. Basically, the left click is just too weak in its current state, and the range is too small for it to be ever used effectively over the right click in close range, in my opinion.
So the mistake is actually just using left click at all, really getting in too close and just getting cut out. Would you just say use right click then the majority of the time?
I use right click about 90% of the time. The only time I use left click is if I'm literally like there's an Orisa shield sticking through a wall and there's no way for an enemy to shoot me. I charge it then and almost never anytime else. It's just too weak.
That's fair, and we can't talk about Symmetra unless we really sort of go over the teleporter stuff. There must be loads of mistakes that you see with people using a new teleporter with how strong but difficult it can be to use. What is the main one that sticks out in your mind?
The main issue that I see people using TP is TPing directly into the enemy team and then having 1 or 2 people go in and just feed the enemy ults. The way you should use TP is you should TP from your backline to your front line. So if people need healing, they can go back safely behind the Reinhardt shield or Orisa shield. You should TP from your low ground to your high ground. So people like immobile characters like Zenyatta or Ana, or people who can't easily get to high ground, maybe Brig, they can easily get up top and fight with your team easier and gain the advantage that high ground allows. And the only other TP you should do into their team is far behind their backline. So they have to completely turn around, and therefore if someone's at the fighting up front, they are no longer useful for the fight in front of you. They have to turn around to deal with you. And those are the 3 TPs you should try to utilize. Other than that, it's a risky move because people know where you're going to come out, and they can play around that if you're TPing just into their faces. They can easily have a Reinhardt charging or swinging, and then you're basically dead at that point.
How about the amount of people that should go through a teleporter? Should it be the whole team, just a couple of people, the tanks, not the supports? What is the general sort of practice for that?
If you're doing a TP strategy, like, hey guys, we're gonna TP high ground and then rush to point, or a really good example is on first point Hanamura. If you go on attack, if you go to your front left wall, like that's the choke, you can TP into the right room, and if everyone on your team does that, you have a huge positional advantage because you're now fighting without the choke. Like, the whole advantage of defense is they have to push through a choke, and you just completely removed that. So if that's the case, you should TP everyone. But if you're just TPing into their backline, it could maybe be you, your off tank, and 1 DPS. And if you have a Zenyatta or who can throw an orb on you, that would be fine. But it depends on the situation. But if you're doing it as a push strategy, you should do your whole team.
Another big thing and a big change for Symmetra was the new ultimate. And it feels like one of those ultimates that seems really crazy, but maybe doesn't have a lot of impact. How should you use this ultimate, or most importantly, how shouldn't you use it?
I think the new Symmetra ult is incredibly strong. How you shouldn't use it, I don't think you should use it as a giant Reinhardt shield for your team. Because it's immobile, the Reinhardt shield makes it. Say you're trying to push up, like your team uses it, but then the enemy team goes around a corner. What are you gonna do? You're just gonna leave the ult behind. It doesn't affect anything then. What you should do is you should place it hot dog style, which is in the old style of like folding paper in middle school. You should place it vertically so you can cut your team and the enemy team in half. This way your team can shield dance and take full advantage of the ultimate, and the fight can move. If they retreat, you can still follow them with the cover of the shield. Something that someone on a Reddit post told me is if it happens to, or reminded me of, if the wall happens to protect, like it has a natural alcove, you can throw a turret or two there, and if they're pushed, there's no way for them to approach the turret without crossing the line and killing it unless they have a Winston. And that turret can get an insane amount of value because it's protected behind a 5,000 HP barrier. So if the ult lines up correctly, you can throw a turret in. If it doesn't, don't try to make it a priority, or else you just waste the turrets.
Speaking of turrets, like, this is one of the areas that I feel a lot of people are saying this is one of Symmetra's best abilities in the game. Do you agree? Like, how should you use these turrets? What mistakes are you seeing a lot of people use with them?
The turrets are OP. They are incredibly strong. They do a 50 DPS and they slow the target, I think, like 33%. So if that is the case, if those numbers are right, you should place them in places that they cannot be destroyed, or they have to be. The enemy has to put themselves in a difficult position to destroy them. What I see a lot of people doing is just throwing the turrets willy-nilly and then them getting destroyed, and then they don't get any value, and it's on a 12-second cooldown or something ridiculous. So now you're fighting without one of your strongest resources. You should try to place turrets in natural cover and places that the enemy has to turn around or put themselves in the open to destroy.
So that sort of raises the question of where are the best positions to put it? Just right behind targets, just off of them? What targets are you looking to kill with that kind of thing?
If you're doing a TP turret bomb, which is something that you put down your TP in the back line, you throw down 3 turrets, you go in, you shoot a right click, and then you leave. That is the situation where the turrets are most likely to be destroyed. That can be anywhere, but it should be in the back line. But if you're putting turrets on the choke, you should put them in places that the enemy has to fully expose themselves to the enemy team, to your team, for it to shoot them. So, like, say you're pushing up with a Reinhardt. The Reinhardt is stuck. He can't move. There are 3 turrets shooting him. Reinhardts barely move at all with the turret, with turrets on them, with their shield up. If that's the case, he has to turn around and defend himself from that. Have your team shoot him in the back. If there's a brig stun or something in there, you can kill him just like that for having the turrets there. You just need to take advantage of what the turrets provide, which is an insane amount of map control.
we've had this new Symmetra for quite some time, and even now, talking to pros, talking to other people, they're not sure how good she's going to be. So one of the final, probably the biggest mistake that you've highlighted is just not knowing what you're supposed to be doing and not knowing your role as Symmetra. So what do you mean by that, and where is Symmetra going to be really good?
Symmetra, what your role should be as Symmetra is you need to be a combination of these three things: damage, mobility, and map control. And this is where Symmetra can really, really shine, because she has insane damage, insane mobility, and insane map control. And it's not just her mobility. It's you can provide mobility to your entire team, which is a very underestimated topic. That if you can put people that normally can't be on high ground easily, like Zen or Bridget, they can take advantage of amazing strategies where it forces the enemy team to play around you. For map control, you can control chokes better than any other hero except for maybe Junkrat. And Junkrat doesn't have the team mobility. He probably has more damage, but he doesn't have the mobility that you can provide your whole team. Another role is damage. You cannot underestimate Sim's damage with her right clicks. I've had Reinhardts go, "What the hell is this new Symmetra's damage to me?" When they try to walk at me and swing at me, and I kill them in 4 orbs. They're like, "Wait, Symmetra can do that to me now?" You need to be aware of her abilities, but if you think you're getting countered, like a lot of times, a Pharah can just completely destroy everything you have, because she can kill the turrets from range, and there's no way you can hit a good Pharah in this guy. So you need to know what to do and how to do it, and if you're not doing it, you need to switch off. That's just the advice that you can give anyone. I think that's true in Overwatch. You need to know what you're doing, but especially for Symmetra.
And I guess finally, are there any other things that you want to go over, like a big final tip for anybody that's aspiring to play new Symmetra? And also, you've just started streaming, so where can people find more of the #1 Symmetra in the world currently?
One tip I would advise is to be PMA. Symmetra still has a very negative connotation, because for a long period in Overwatch, she was considered a troll pick. I used to consider her a troll pick, to be honest. But you need to be positive, and you need to explain what you're doing in comp, and you need to provide the role that she can, and people will stop thinking of her as a troll pick. You can see that, plug time, you can see that on my new Twitch, Mrbobwagner _ at twitch.tv. If you want to follow me, you can. If not, I play Symmetra and I flex to support.
And that's it for this time. Thank you very much for watching. You can check out all of Mr. Bob Wagner's stuff in the description below, as I said before. He's recently just started streaming, so do check him out for some of the best Symmetra gameplay that you're going to get. But I hope you liked the video, like and subscribe if you haven't already, and until next time, take care. We'll see you then.